Imagine trying to conceive for 12 years. 12. I remember being on my infertility journey for 10 years. Mine was caused by fibroids. And I remember having my hope shredded, beat down every Mother's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthday, baby shower. It was a constant reminder that I didn't have a baby and that infertility was still successfully flying the flag over my life. 1 in 6 people, that's the statistic that the World Health Organization has documented. 1 in 6 people battle infertility. And my guest today, Danielle Key-Odis. Well, she's here to share her story of how a simple 14-day water fast reset helped to lead to a life where she is the mommy of 2 miracle babies. Yes. So, this is going to be a good one. Share this with your folks because we need this encouragement and inspiration in our lives. Before I bring her on, let me officially welcome you to Detox Living, where we bring you tips, truths, and testimonials to power your toxic-free living. I am your host, Coach Gessie, fibroid survivor turned health activist and founder of the detoxnow.com, a holistic health platform and provider of education and supplements that help to combat the disparities that lead to obesity, chronic disease, reproductive health issues, and lower life expectancy rates. Join me today in welcoming Danielle.
Hey, girl, you did that really well. Hey, Gessie.
Hey, it's so good to see you and officially have this conversation.
Yes.
I call you our OG miracle mommy because you were the first woman battling infertility that we were able to help and support in having your miracle. And, that means I shared how important that was to me because of my 10 years, So let's get into it. And, would you take a moment and just kind of share with us, take us back to that time in your life, when you were trying to conceive and it wasn't working, what the toll it took on your mind and your body, your, relationship, 12 years. I know what it was like 10 years. What was that like for you?
Well, my journey is so mixed up with a lot of different things. I say 12 and a half years. I was in a relationship prior to getting married and had never conceived. I mean, not a positive and a miscarriage, nothing, never conceived. And so when I got married, I kind of, in my mind, I'd never spoken this out loud. I never talked to my mom. I never talked to my girlfriends about my concern. I just kind of carried it. Mm-hmm. But when I got married, there were a couple of things that created this urgency in me. One, I had found out that I had fibroids a few years before I got married, had moved to a new state. And so I was seeing different doctors, and the response from the doctors almost every time was, we need to have surgery to remove these fibroids. And I knew the risk with how large my fibroids were. It meant that it could end up in a hysterectomy. And doctors were pretty blunt and straightforward about that. Wow. And I just said to myself, and this was just a fibroid elimination or just a fibroid journey at first.
Right.
I said to myself, I need to learn more about my body and at least give myself a chance to do whatever I could do. I had no idea what that was.
Right.
Or I just willingly go under the knife knowing this huge risk.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And so I just started, thanks to my hyper focus, I really started deep diving into researching fibroids. And there were a lot of things that were suggesting or talking about the root cause and what was causing the fibroids. And it was an intense process of trying to figure out how I could reverse that thing or what I could do before I decided to give the doctors a chance to do any type of surgery.
Right. See what was in your control.
See what was in my control. Give it a shot. Just see what I could do. And so I found a lot of information. I started deep diving, and it made me question my fertility in a way that I had not done before, because that would have been on the line if I ended up getting this surgery and it didn't go well.
Wow.
And here I am, newly married. And although I had never conceived, there was just a little bit of hope that maybe if these fibroids were the issue, they could be causing my fertility issues.
Right.
So that,
and the doctors never, did they say that to you?
No, they didn't say that to me. And here, there was a lot of gut feelings that were going on. I did a sort of convince the doctors to do a laparoscopic examination to kind of see what was going on and do dye tests. Everything came back and looked normal. And I'll tell you this, a little bit of the story that you share. I didn't have any alternative medicines. I didn't get to see any specialty doctors. And I'll tell you why. The doctors told me they wouldn't make any recommendations or encourage me to go in that direction to even consider getting pregnant until I had the surgery.
Wow. Which was an issue because you knew the way they were approaching and talking about your fibroids, it could end up in a hysterectomy.
It could end up in a hysterectomy, but they were almost holding it over my head that if I didn't have this surgery, they wouldn't make any fertility recommendations.
They wouldn't even have you see a fertility specialist. They wouldn't
even make a recommendation. And so I kind of took things into my own hands with doctors a couple of times.
I said you were the OG.
I did.
Into my own hands.
I did a lot. So when I started this journey was the first time that I started being vocal about it, speaking to people that were close to me. Once I started realizing how big of an issue this was, all of the crazy cycles and stuff I experienced, I thought it was just normal. And finding out that it wasn't normal and that a lot of people were struggling made me decide to speak up a little bit about it. And the support just started
pouring
divinely pouring in.
Right.
So that's how the journey started. I tried tons of holistic things for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Any and everything that there was that I thought could eliminate my fibroids. I was under a very strict diet. But again, any and everything I tried until I found Hope Beyond Fibroids.
Right. That was so crazy. It was like, because that's how my story came out, right? And it was about Hope Beyond Fibroids, right? That was the name of my book and the whole journey of what we're doing. And I had no idea until I shared my story, because you talk about the power of sharing your story.
The power of sharing your story.
Until I shared my story, Danielle, I had no idea millions of women all over the world, like you said, the outpour that started to just come in. It was like when Essence shared my profile of what ended up being, more detailed in my book was, women just telling me their life story. It wasn't, like people like, oh, that's such encouraging, congratulations. No, they were like going in.
Yeah.
And it's just what you talked about, like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Where
the moment I shared my story, the way that people came in, whether they were and it was just mostly family and friends. And, they were just so encouraging that I think kind of elevated my level of hope. But also there is an endurance when you are on a fertility journey that can look like waves.
Girl, talk
a lot
about
of
that.
A lot of emotional things, you know, whether it's the shame.
Yeah.
You don't know that other people are suffering the way that you do or going through some of the embarrassing things that you're going through, whether it's the fibroids or the fertility. The pressure from family now that I'm married to have kids.
Did you have, once you shared it, did they, you know, obviously a community of people started to encourage you, but were there still like that same, like, what's going on? You know, I feel like people just don't get it. Like, they're not getting the cues, like something's going on, right? But the pressure to like, okay, it's common. Like, you know, I'm going through this. All you have to do is this. All you have to do is that, you know?
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
Well, I'm blessed to have many circles of friends. And, you know, there's a more conscious group of friends that were on a different journey, and older women that some of them had hysterectomies. Some of them were in different stages, but they were encouraging that, of course, you're going to have, you know, a baby, you're going to be fine. You know, now we joke about what we call the purple pad warriors, you know. But then there was pressure from the family to have kids. Yeah. You know, of course you're going to have kids. You know, don't worry about it. And it was that pressure that really made me open up and have conversations with them about, look, this is what I'm dealing with.
Good for you. Good
and
for you.
And a part of that journey for me was how I spoke about myself.
Yes, ma'am. Ooh, preach
my
that.
Words. Well, it was really a journey of discipline at this time. I was doing a lot of educating myself. And of course, like I know, you know, once you started finding out all this information about the high numbers of hysterectomies and things that could have been avoided and things being linked to food. And it was like I had a soapbox, and anybody that listened,
everything you were learning, you were then.
Everything I was learning, I was, you know, telling people, but still trying to hold on to hope myself, doing everything under the sun to try to increase my fertility, yoni steams, and changing my diets and intentional movements and all that stuff, which I believe was a part of my healing process, the spiritual component, the mental component, forgiving myself, reflecting on my past, thanking God for where I was,
where you were,
talking to my womb and womb massages. I mean, I was doing it all.
You were.
I was doing it all. And this life of discipline had to follow that until I met, you know, you and the team of doctors. And
tell us what was that like for you in that moment? It sounds like it was the right next step. Like you were.
It was the right next step. I was mentally in the right place.
Right. You were in this. It was the confluence.
Yes.
Right?
It was divine orchestration, as I like to say, the perfect timing. Yes. And because the doctors had sort of taken things off the table for me, and I started to feel out of control in their hands, I felt like I don't have any other options. I don't know what IVF and specialty treatments look like. Insurances weren't that progressive at the time.
Right. Yes. You're right.
So
you're right. You're right.
I think I started with the diets.
Yes.
And the some supplements. And the supplements were kind of addressing
cramping,
fibroids, and infertility.
Yes.
Okay. So fibroids and the infertility, and just some women health issues. My husband was taking supplements. And I probably did that about 6 months. I did that about 6 months. And
then at some point, the two of you decided to do the water fast, right?
Yes. So I had been doing the supplements probably continuously for 6 months. And I say continuously, but any holistic approach, I think, requires an extreme amount of discipline.
Absolutely.
So there were times I would slack off and get back on. And reorder.
It's a journey.
And so
it's a journey.
It's a journey. We wanted it really bad, and we did our best to stick to our diet. And probably about 6 months later, I think the discussion of the water fast came. It was around January, which is typically the time that we do a Danielle fast.
Right.
Yeah,
Danielle fast. Right. So it is in alignment with spiritually what you do.
Spiritually what I do. So again, divine timing, I was mentally prepared that this is sort of what I do at the beginning of the year. And I jumped into the fast. I was already taking the supplements. And I tell people the water fast was the easiest fast I've ever done.
It is.
Because
I did it
you don't have to worry about
the same time you did it. I was doing it at the first time.
Yeah. And you think about it and you think it's going to be really intimidating. My husband and I made a pact that if I'm not going to be consuming anything for these days, when I get off work, I need to be able to come home and rest. I'm not cooking. I'm not working out.
Come on, Mr. T.
And he was completely supportive of that.
That's awesome.
Completely supportive.
Awesome.
Not having to worry about what to eat.
Yes.
Or cook or prep. It's just you prep your water. If I thought that I was hungry and I was like, are you really hungry? I'd sip on my water. I didn't have headaches. I didn't have stomach cramping.
Nope.
I may not have had an abundance of energy, but I didn't feel weak.
Right. You
know,
and you know what? Look at the beauty of it also. Again, such a fluid process because your body, you were already transitioning. You were already in a healing zone in terms of how you were eating and transitioning. And now your body was like, yes, it's time to level up. Right?
Yeah.
Your body was like so ready. And because of that, the body knows God has created our bodies to heal itself.
Yeah, I believe
no question. Like the best healer is the body, right? And obviously you need intervention. Coach Gessie's not saying not to go to the doctor or go to the hospital. Right. You need it because you better. Okay. However, when you are looking at what's in your power to do, always, it's important to do what's in our power, right?
Our power.
Yeah. So amazing. So you had a great experience. It was easy for you. Did you feel like something was changing? Did you feel like something's really happening in my body right now? What was that like for you?
I think it was first, there was a mind-body connection.
Mm-hmm.
There was a mind-body connection where I talked to myself and I knew the intention of the fast was to give my organs a break, to help rejuvenate my cells. And that was something that I constantly remind myself and envision that thing happening to me.
Yes.
I looked at it as an intentional period of rest, which we don't often allow ourselves to rest and be so intentional without feeling guilty.
Right.
So I think the mental acceptance of what we were doing, what the anticipated outcome that I was visualizing and hoping for.
Girl, you a visionary in that miracle.
I'm a visionary.
That's right, girl.
And so it played a role in just that mental fortitude.
Correct.
Because it's easy, but there still is some mental fortitude that's required.
I call it, we have to surrender to the process of healing, right?
Surrender to the process. Mm-hmm. So when it's lunch hour and your mind thinks it's time to eat and you see everyone getting up to go to lunch, you do a physical check and you say, I don't feel famine. I don't feel like I'm starving. I don't feel hungry. Mm-hmm. I would go outside and intentionally get some vitamin D, drive up to a park, maybe take a quick power nap.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I navigated the fast.
That's so powerful because the mind-body connection you talk about is everything, right? It is that what I want is healing from the inside out, right? Totally and completely. And surrender. What I say to people, when you're ready, right? because you have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
You have to get
I'm there.
Right. So you were like, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
I'm not playing with this. Yeah. You know, they say, don't play with it. Don't play with it.
Very serious.
You were very serious, right?
Very serious.
The doctors were giving you options that you were like, that's not okay. Yeah. Right? That's not on my plate of acceptable options.
Correct.
Right? Right. And at that point, you're like, I love to say that we have to understand we're the first cavalry, right? And I say it like, you know what? I surrender to the process of healing. I'm like, okay, God, like what's in our hands to do, right? Mm-hmm. What's in my hands to do, right? So yes. Turning down your plate, you were already in the mindset of fasting because it was the top of the year. You'd already made the lifestyle changes, right? And now you were like, okay, you know what? Now I'm about to level this up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't man, I want to. You weren't even wrestling with your mind about it because you'd already decided.
Yeah. And the lifestyle changes were extreme.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the whole wave of I haven't used regular deodorant in 7 years, or I wasn't even using regular shampoo and eliminating all the toxic products.
Like, all the phthalates, all the hormone disruptors.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. And making sure, look at this, making sure our babies are not having them now. How about that part?
Right.
New generation.
So you're right. I was mentally in a place. And you know what else, Gessie, when I shared my story, the way that people spoke life into me just in casual conversations, I remember it was just a Facebook post. And I said something, I'd already had a name in mind.
Wow.
And I shared it. And everyone's like in that first post, you know, everyone, that friend group, they just started saying Team Charlie.
Hey!
That's where Team Charlie came from before she was even conceived, right? So there began to be a vision of this baby.
Yes.
Before, you know, so there were all these things that were like an accountability. They were my reason. Now that you put something out there, you know, people are rooting for you type of thing. So yeah, all those were factors.
Phenomenal. So now take us to the moment where you found out that you conceived your first, I have to say first, miracle baby.
First.
Because God just showed out.
He did.
Okay. So take us to them. What happened? How? Give them.
Things happened really fast. Mm-hmm. We did that water fast.
Was in January.
That was in January, and it went to maybe before the last week in January. The last week in January is my husband's birthday, and we had a couples trip planned the next week after the fast to Colorado, and we conceived that next week. Okay. I mean, you know, of course we didn't find out literally till a month later, but it was literally the next week.
Wow.
The next week.
Wow.
Yeah. And now we had been trying, so it wasn't as if it had happened before that.
Right. Yeah, Phenomenal. And what was like, you know, how did you find out? Like, did you, you know, like, I think something special just happened. Like, give me the tea.
Well, okay.
Give me the tea, girl.
So a month later, it was, and you know, this miracle baby story doesn't just stop at the conception. It was a month later. It was close to Valentine's Day, so it wasn't even a full month. And something was off. My breathing was off in a way that I'd never felt it before. Getting really winded, and we're talking about a couple weeks. Getting really winded. My cycle was late. I said something's off, and never being in this position, never missing a cycle. You know, you've never had this moment. And I told my mom that I thought I would take a test. And if it didn't come in a week, I couldn't wait a week. It was a couple of days. I took the test and, you know, surprised my husband on Valentine's Day with the news. And the joy was such a praise because I knew a miracle had happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Like a
1,000%. 1,000% miracle.
Yeah, a disbelief that this had happened for me. And
how did you tell him Valentine's Day? What did Valentine's Day give? Was it a card? What did you do, girl?
I decided to do the 5 senses.
Okay.
And so I had all these gifts lined up with different things that represent vision and touch and smell. Now, I can't remember. It might have been taste.
Okay.
So I had bought a box, just an empty box where you would put your chocolates in. And I wrapped the pregnancy stuff and put it in the chocolate box. So when he opened the taste box, thinking it was a box of chocolates, it was actually the pregnancy test.
And the tears.
And the tears.
The tears.
Just disbelief.
Somebody said a heart-shaped Ninja Turtle box?
Yes, it was. That must be my...
Is that him? Is that Mr. Terry himself?
Mr. Terry. A heart-shaped Ninja Turtle box. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So there's specifics. I love it. There's video proof of that somewhere.
Oh, I need the video.
There's video. I haven't seen it since we filmed it, but yeah, there's video evidence of that. Complete joy, a pure joy.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, we went to our first appointment. I'm talking about advocacy and just some of the other products and what kind of being on this journey did. The doctor told me on my very first visit, when you confirm your pregnancy, she says, you, and I had experienced a little bit of spotting, nothing super alarming, but wanted to mention it. She said, well, you have these large fibroids, you're of a certain age, you're high risk, and you run a high risk of having a miscarriage. And if it happens, if it's happening, there's nothing we can do about it.
This is what she's saying to you, right? Like
first confirmation visit.
Wow.
You're not going to have a vaginal birth. And we'll just monitor you as high risk. My joy quickly turned to sorrow. Fear. Just complete uncertainty.
Right.
The idea of having something that you wanted and the thought of losing that was, it was overwhelming in a way I didn't expect. And I remember
the moment.
Ask you.
You remember the moment that, 21 weeks, hey Karen, 21 weeks, my miracle baby who is on Broadway in The Lion King right now. Yes. Come on, God.
Come on, baby.
At 21 weeks, the doctor said you might want to consider terminating this pregnancy because the fibroids were taking the blood supply away from the baby. And I said, no, I believe in miracles. Yeah. And we're not giving up on this baby. It took us 10 years to get to this pregnancy, right?
Exactly.
And then 5 weeks later, we had to get hospitalized because now there wasn't just a gap in the blood flow. Now the blood flow was being pulled away from the baby. And they said, oh, you're going to have to meet with neonatal. And so that moment you just talked about, it took me back to when the neonatal group is now telling me, oh, the baby's going to have bleeding brain, necrotic gut, is not a viable pregnancy. And that moment, all I could do was shut them out. Yeah. Right. What was how did you overcome that moment?
Well, there was a couple of things. I remember there was a period where we weren't necessarily in connection, and we got back in connection, and you started doing these live prayer calls.
Yes.
There was such a desperation, and my family was moved away, and I was just really struggling with how I hadn't even told my best friend that I was pregnant. I was so scared.
Oh my goodness.
Losing the baby. I felt very much emotionally alone. My husband was there, but it was just this undescribable fear.
Yeah.
Those prayers really helped me to hold on to hope. A I developed a hematoma in my placenta.
Wow.
And,
Blood clot.
That's a blood clot. And the bleeding was still going on. And again, the doctor just kept reinforcing, there's nothing we can do. You know, you're high risk and we'll just have to monitor you. I did some more research on my own and found that other people that were dealing with this were bumping up their vitamin D, E and D. I ordered it the same day I started taking the supplement. I never bled again.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. But there was no nothing from the doctor.
That's heartbreaking.
There was no lead. There was no, and of course they're not going to recommend anything that is not, you know.
Did you ever think of changing doctors at that point? Like, did you ever think this doctor doesn't qualify to be my doctor?
I did so many times. The process of trying to find another doctor was so frustrating that I just kind of blindly kept moving, knowing that I had my supplemental community. I almost just was going through the motions with the doctor. The doctor didn't even deliver my baby. Okay. When it came down to it, she didn't even deliver it. She wasn't there that day, but I just, I just had to lean into all of my support system. I got into another holistic journey that was a spiritual path. I started picking up the supplements again to make sure, started drinking. I drank my structured water until I had my baby.
Water, nothing else.
Right? That chlorophyll was my, that was, and the all
of lemon.
Yes. I might have just had the chlorophyll and some supplements, but I stuck with some of those things that I had been doing. And
what you decided was, you know what, I have to now box you out, and I have to do what I know to do, right?
I have to do. And everything from there forward in my pregnancy went well.
Look at that.
Everything. I started seeing a special OB because I was considered high risk.
Right.
I never had to directly deal with that doctor anymore. And the OB was encouraging. Everything looked good.
Look at God.
I even delivered Charlie
out of your case.
Disqualified. I delivered Charlie vaginally with no complications.
Say that again.
And easy birth.
You delivered her vaginally when the doctor said you wouldn't be able to because of the fibroids.
They told me that the fibroids would block my canal or cause me to have an eruption. Now, I wouldn't advise anybody to go against their doctor's advice.
Absolutely.
But the OB that I was under the care of actually said, you're going to be fine.
That's right.
So dismissing those things, seeking second opinions. Someone asked why vitamin D, why vitamin E. I can't remember.
So high molecular, it says here that just those two, it says improve subchronic hematoma reabsorption. So what those vitamins do is help the body reabsorb the hematoma.
Yes. And it was quickly resolved.
Look at that.
So, for me, it was, I wouldn't say a quick search, but it was something that I was able to find information on. I was just so...
Listen, when the student is ready, God don't play. Because you know what? This was his doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Okay?
Absolutely.
Everything from the all of the journey. Yes. It wasn't, nobody would sit there and tell you, do a water fast and you're going to get pregnant. Meaning like your doctors would have never told you, do the water fast and you're going to get pregnant.
Exactly.
No, because they don't know what was going on in your body. And that's why we always say, listen, you don't know, finding out and doing what is in your power, that's the first step. Of course, making sure you're consulting with your physician, making sure you know what's going on so that you know what is safe for you to do. But the point is, there are things that are in our power. And, kudos to you, Danielle, that you were like, you know what you're saying, whose report are you going to believe? There's a song that says, whose report are you going to believe? And that doctor was like, doctors telling you that you couldn't You couldn't even consider fertility until you have a surgery that will likely end you up in a hysterectomy. You know what? I don't receive that.
You know what's funny? The doctor that I saw when I was pregnant, I had gone to 2 doctors prior. That doctor that did the laparoscopic exam and told me that she wouldn't give me a Black woman, who told me she wouldn't give me a recommendation unless I had the surgery.
Woo!
When I had
Wait, no, you did not. She wouldn't give you a fertility recommendation.
Yes. That was the thing.
Manipulation.
Exactly. She told me she would not give me a fertility recommendation. She would not do that. This was her recommendation. So when I switched doctors and they transferred my records, I looked through my records and it had all the doctor's notes, to my surprise. And one of her notes in our conversation with her, I don't know if she had made a recommendation, and I said that I had some holistic things that I wanted to try. In her note, she wrote, she wants to try these holistic things. Good luck with that.
Well,
yeah.
Well, who's smiling now?
Divine favor. It's divine favor.
Okay.
It's not good luck. It's divine favor.
No good luck.
Yeah.
Whose story? And this it goes back to when understand you. That's why go in a second, third opinion. Unless I always say when you go to the physician, remember there are 2 experts in the room. There is the physician who's the expert in their field, but then there is you who is the expert on your body, yourself. And if that doctor dismisses you, doesn't value your expertise, it's time to find someone else because they don't understand. They don't understand the partnership this is supposed to be. They don't understand the parity of the relationship, right? And that
I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel that the doctor, we weren't aligned.
Nope.
As to what were the possibilities. I'm not saying there was one route, but there weren't even any options that were put on the table that aligned. And I'm very vocal about, this is my medical beliefs.
Right.
I lean a little bit into Western medicine. I need it. But I also believe that there are other ways to take care of the body. And it's just such a dismissive attitude towards that. I was like, this probably isn't the doctor for me.
Yeah, that's a telltale sign right there.
Let's explore other doctors.
Thank you for disqualifying yourself.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
And I appreciate how far you've gotten me, but I'm going to continue to do the work and know that I'm on this journey and get follow-ups, but I'm not ready to lean into that yet.
Nope. So something incredible happened on March 12th, October 12th, 2016.
Yeah, Miss Charlie was born.
Give her full name, please. Give that
Charlie Monet. Charlie Monet was born.
Because she is a work of art.
She is. It's my miracle baby, my favorite daughter. She is amazing. She is amazing. So my husband and I are just super excited to be able to grow our family naturally. Body intact.
Body intact.
Body intact and snatched back and
that part.
And all the things. And then here, the testimony doesn't really end.
No.
Okay? Sometimes it's such a blessing. Now, I know it's been a long time for me to tell my story. I know a lot of people that are struggling. Mm-hmm. And there is this, you want to spread your hope and share all of the resources. And I've done that. Every time you reach out, there's so many people that reach out to me and want to know how and all of these things. And it feels like a responsibility to have a part in someone else's hope. And you know how fragile that can be.
Yeah.
So before I had Charlie, my fibroid symptoms were unbearable. The pain was ridiculous. Intimacy can be uncomfortable, the heavy bleeding, just the whole trauma of it all. After I had my daughter, I still had my fibroids. My largest fibroid, which I actually had an appointment today, was 8 centimeters. but it was calcified, which means it wasn't growing anymore.
It had outgrown its blood supply.
It had outgrown its blood supply, and so it wasn't growing anymore. And I know the baby can move things around, but my pain level went from a 12. I could pop 6 Aleve in a day.
Wow.
The doctor said, you can't continue to take medicine like this.
Right.
My pain management after I had my daughter was to the point where I no longer have to take medicine on myself.
Wow.
I mean, maybe the first day,
wow,
but that's how much the pain subsided.
Wow.
And I never experienced that the entire time I've had a cycle.
Wow.
Something made the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The additional blessings of the miracle
additional blessings. Now that I was not prepared for. Never known a life without pain on my cycle.
Wow.
Or, those sort of spasms that would happen and debilitating. There's still some things that we deal with, but that was again another icing on the cake for me.
And yet, God wasn't finished.
And yet, God wasn't finished.
Hello.
I was happy with Charlie. And then there came a point where we were like, man, this kid is so cute. So adorable. And she's such a blessing. And she's such a good baby. We should try to do it again. And it almost happened immediately. We conceived my son on my husband's birthday.
Yo, you know what?
Okay. He was supposed to be, he was supposed to be born 2 or 3 days before Charlie's birthday.
Oh my God.
Okay. He came a little early. Same story. You're high risk. We're sending you to a specialist that you got to pay all this out-of-pocket fees for every other week to go see and monitor your pregnancy, which I was grateful for. But it sends a bit of angst over you when you get that title. This one felt a little bit different. I knew now what my body could do. I have worked so hard to create this optimal birthing condition, as I say.
Yes.
And I was
birthing plan.
Well, not just my birthing plan. Everything that I was doing to prepare my body was the mindset that I am creating.
Yes.
The optimal
the overall environment
for the baby to be in.
Yes.
And so my body still felt like I was in a good place. It was a little quick.
Yeah.
But
12 and a half years.
Yeah.
How long did this one take? Right away.
Right. Look, 15 months after Charlie was born.
Like, hello.
Yeah. So it hasn't been without some challenges. We did have a miscarriage in between conceiving or Charlie being born and conceiving Trey, which I later recognized as a miscarriage. Didn't even know I was having a miscarriage at the time.
Wow.
But my son was a perfect pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy. Baby came a little early, but he was healthy and strong.
And he is so y'all, the post before this, because we'll share this replay, you'll see these pictures of these adorable.
Yeah.
They need to be in magazines. They are so cute.
They are still in all my heart and coins and everything else.
And coins. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And what a gift. I saw your Mother's Day post, and sometimes because I go through that same thing where it's like, you're so in the moment and rejoicing, and then you reflect back, remembering what the journey was and how, sometimes it felt like it was forever away. Right. And I just want to thank you, because what you shared is going to plant hope in someone's heart today. And, even if you're not trying to conceive, what I want you to take away from Danielle's story also is that your healing, your health, whatever your goal is, right? Whatever your health goal is, you have so much power in your hands.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah. And you deserve to receive care in partnership with physicians and advocates and caregivers who share your vision for your health,
Yes.
right? Who are in alignment with the possibilities that you see and the pathways that you desire for your health, right? In that you are deserving of abundant health. You are deserving of that abundance of life, whether it's a baby to being fibroid free, to being free of, of high blood pressure issues or whatever, or weight that carries inflammation and pain, whatever it is, there's so much power in your hands. I love how you continued, to say, wait a minute, you know what? I am my first advocate, because that's what we have to be. Our very first advocate that says, you know what? No, that's not okay. I don't agree with that. I'm not in agreement with that. And you kept doing that throughout the process. You kept saying, no, and you said, but at the end of the day, I've got to look for what is in alignment with what I know and what I sense in my spirit, what I know is possible. Yeah. So I just honor that. It's so amazing, where did you get that advocacy from? Is that something you saw role modeled for you? Because so many people, now as a health activist and as a coach, I'm always trying to equip and empower people to advocate for themselves. Because so many people end up with negative health outcomes just because they did what they were told to do, even though it didn't feel right, even though it didn't sit well with them, even though they felt like they were being dismissed, even though they felt like they weren't being heard. Where did that sense of advocacy come for you?
I think I'm just tenacious. I'm just a fighter by nature. What's interesting is it doesn't always look like a brave face. I've been told I have a poker face, right? But I cried almost every time I went to the doctor. Okay. I cried a lot alone. But the people around me, when I tell you, the people you bring on your journey with you is so important. And you can't share your journey with everyone, unfortunately.
Say that part again.
Because if the right people aren't aligned with you, if people are not speaking life into you, divinely orchestrated. Because when I tell you I was planted in Texas, thousands or hundreds of miles away from my family, and my husband are here building a family together, here building a life together. And there was some shame associated. I can't even explain it. Just feeling like a bird that can't fly. But there was something about wanting that victory in my story.
Yeah.
And there were things that just kept connecting for me because of God's work. It wasn't just I was this strong marching through life making demands, because like I said, there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of moments I felt broken and wanted to quit. But like, for instance, when I found you weren't even promoting the
no, we're doing coaching and praying, right?
This was it might have been along that time. And then you came back in the picture. Like you popped up again out of nowhere.
That's God, girl. Right time.
There were so many God moments. There were so many things that every time I put my hat down, somebody came along with a solution. Every time I wanted to cry, somebody was reassuring me. And I wasn't looking for any of it. I'm a very private person. Or I'd be making a grocery list and my husband would come behind me and say, make sure you put the right things on the list because we're doing this for so and so and so. So it was one of those things where I couldn't not keep pushing because I just had every time I wanted to, this is too hard, or I'm tired of this diet.
It wasn't God wasn't going to let you give up, girl.
He wasn't. This has never happened to me before, but things just kept pulling me. My faith, and just a deep desire to want to be a mother was a driving factor for me.
Well, Danielle, I cannot thank you.
Thank you, Gessie.
I'm going to share this replay. Very excited about people being encouraged by your story. And I'm going to have you back again because this was just too much. Appreciate you.
Gessie. Thank you.
All right. So please, if you are going through whatever your health journey, please know we're here for you. You are not alone. Take our free quiz at thedetoxnow.com to start to give you some guidance. Sign up for one of our consultations, our free consultations. Access the support that's available to you because we are here for you.